Hey friends, Matt Robertson here, digital marketing strategist for D2C e-commerce brands. In this video, I want to walk you through how to make a landing page using a page builder app. Page builders help Shopify brands create sophisticated pages on their websites without requiring advanced web development skills. We're going to use the app Shogun today, but there are other apps on the market, such as Replo, that are based on the same concept, with similar drag and drop functionality and cool built-in A/B testing features. In this tutorial, we're going to recreate this recipes and cooking tips page featured in the top navigation of Seated Table's website. This page serves double duty from a marketing standpoint. It's a retention tool that sets the customers up for success with the seafood that they purchased, giving them access to a bunch of recipes and also seafood cooking tips down below. It also has a lead capture element where a person can download an ebook by submitting their email address. So when you click on this over here on the right, it brings up this page where if they enter their email, you've now captured their email address and they receive a PDF version of our recipe book. All right, so let's head over to Shogun, which I have open in another tab here. Shogun is just an app that you get through the Shopify marketplace that's integrated with your Shopify store. So I've opened it up here for Seated Table Store. Our first move is going to be to build or edit a page right here, and we're going to start from scratch. They have plenty of templates and stuff you could use, but we're going to build this one from scratch. Now, we're going to create a standard page instead of a blog post. We're going to give our page a name. Let's call it Prepping Your Catch. But we've already used this handle because the page is already built. So I need to add something to distinguish it from the one that already exists. I'm just going to put a 2 at the end. And down here, we want to include the theme's header and footer. But we're going to leave that on. We're going to create a page. Okay, just a quick tour here. We have on the left side are our page elements that we're going to be dragging and dropping into the page. On the right side is how we're going to style these elements. So a handy way to think about this, if you're familiar with HTML and CSS, your HTML blocks are going to be over on the left side, while your CSS styling essentially is going to be over on the right. But you don't need to know HTML or CSS for this. That's just the core concept that we're working with here. Along the top, you see our different screen sizes. Right now it's defaults to laptop. You can design for 4 different screen types, and you should. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to focus on laptop only, but you do want to optimize for mobile and tablet as well, something to bear in mind. So the first thing we're going to want to do, just looking at our example page here, is build our header. And in order to do that, we first want to drag in a container. And a container operates, if you're familiar with HTML, it's essentially a div block. It's a section that you use to center and organize the various elements within your page. Next, we're going to drag in a column structure element, because if you look back at our page, this is essentially 2 columns that are happening here. We've got our text on the left and nothing on the right, and in the background image is what is the scallops in the pan. Okay, now I'm going to jump over to an app that I use for vector illustration. It's called Affinity Designer. It's essentially Adobe Illustrator. You can use anything here that you are comfortable with. Maybe it's Canva, maybe it's Adobe Illustrator. I happen to like Affinity Designer. But what I'm doing here is taking this photo of our scallops, cropping it down to an image that I want to fit the space at the top of the page, and then I'm going to export that as a WebP file. WebP is best practices with most internet applications, where because it's going to compress the file to something as light as possible so that it does not slow down your web page. In this case, we're going to make it, the size is going to be around 1500 pixels wide, 300 pixels high, and then we can change the quality of our WebP here I'm going to keep it around 90, and you see that the estimated file size is around 200 kilobytes, and that's not bad for a website. That shouldn't slow us down too much. We're going to export that to the desktop. I'm going to call it hero image. Save that. Jump back to Shogun, and over here on the left is our layout panel. You can kind of see the outline of how our page is being built. If you think of this as HTML, we've got our div, and then we've got a column element within the div. And with our column element selected, I'm going to come over here to the right, and I'm going to add a background image to the entire column element. And I'm going to grab it from my desktop, hero image, open, and there it is. The column element is too short, so we need to change our dimensions. We're going to give it a minimum height that matches the height of the image, which was 310 pixels. We're going to let it do full width. We want it to span the entire width of our page. Next, we want to drag in a heading block to the left side of our column structure. So we want to style this over on the right under main. This is an H1. Seated Tables font is Rubik. And we'll give it a weight of kind of a heavier weight of, call it 600. We want to change the size to maybe 70 pixels and the color of the text to white so it stands out against that darker background. Now we can put in our copy, prepping your catch. Maybe I'll italicize that. I want to put a line break here. That's a shift return to kind of balance it out a little bit better. And then to vertically align it, we're going to come over here and scroll down to our padding section. And we're going to change this to 10 from pixels to 10%. This is going to effectively center it top to bottom within the column. So that takes care of the hero header section. We're now going to add another container. And looking at our finished page here again, the next thing we're going to add is this H2 along with a little icon, followed by our recipes. In order to do that, we've got our container. We're now going to add in another heading element, an image, as well as another container that will eventually contain our recipes. So beginning with our heading, it's going to say original seafood recipes. For the heading type, let's make it an H2. And again, we're going with Rubik. We'll keep the weight at regular, and we want to change the text color to Seated Tables brand orange. And that looks good. Jumping back over to my designer tool, I've made these icons that they repurpose the waves in Seated Tables logo as steam in this case and as writing on a tag in this case. So I'm going to export this as a WebP again. Let's export. Now we'll add in our plate icon, and it's a little on the large side, so we're going to shrink that down. With the image selected, we can go over to dimensions, change our width to 100, let's say. Let's see what that looks like. That's good. I think we can make this text a little bit larger, our H2 36. Maybe we'll make it a little bit heavier, 500. And another thing we'll do here is just add some padding to the container that this is within. And there's our container. We're going to select that over in the layout and add some padding top and bottom. You can see it's pushing some space between our hero image and that text. Next, looking at our page, we have two columns here. We have the accordion recipes column, and then here on the right we have the free ebook and our C stories, and also a CTA in a second column. So the next step would be to bring in a column element, drop it into our container that we dropped in a little earlier. So that's our structure. We got our container, two columns, and then we will add an accordion element within the left column. You can see that the left column is bigger than the right column here, so we're going to spread this out a little bit. And now we want to style our accordion. So looking at the layout again, here's our accordion. We want to select that. Now our styling options over on the right reflect the accordion. And you can see the way this is set up is our first title for our accordion is going to be Wild Salmon. Open is just saying, do we want this to show as being already open when the page loads? I'm going to keep it closed. And then by adding panes, we're adding additional recipes. So next one would be Wild Gulf Shrimp. Now we want to style these colors so that the background is this very light blue and the text is in that darker navy blue. To do that, we're going to come down to colors and change our header background to seated tables light blue, and then we're going to change our header text to a color that I've already saved. This is their navy blue. We want to change the font to Rubik again. We're going to make it a little bolder, call it 500, make it bigger. You can also add here an open icon. This will convey to the user that there's a way to open this accordion, and I'm going to use Chevron. And as you can see, there's a downward pointing arrow that when you click on it, it opens the content for that tab. Now that we have that open, we're going to come over here and see what it looks like when we open it on our live page. And we've got a little copy at the top, which I'm going to copy so I can paste it in. And then our recipes, our recipe cards here. Recreate that. We're going to bring in a text block. For this, I'll just use a regular text block. It's not a heading. Also columns, because these are separated out into two columns, along with images for each column. So first for the text, I'm going to paste in what we brought over from the other tab. And for the image, going back to Affinity Designer, you can see I've actually already kind of pre-built these out. We got gravlocks. So this is just a photograph with text overlaid on it. So we export those again as WebPs, as small a file as we can. We can shrink these down to around 500 pixels, probably even less, but 500 is good. We bring down the quality to 90. We're at 54 kilobytes. Not bad. That's a very small file size. We export that. Here's our cured salmon gravlocks. I'm going to add that in. Over here on the right, we can add our alt text. We also want to link this to the recipe. So as you can see on our original page, if you were to click this image, it opens a new tab and it goes to our blog post for how to make salmon gravlocks. I'm going to copy that link, come back over here under link. I'm going to paste in our link and I'm going to have it open in a new window. We also make sure that this is checked, that the image is clickable. Now to save a little bit of time, I'm going to duplicate this, grab it, and drag it up into our second column, and then I'm just going to change out the image, and that's our first tab. But to speed things up, I'm just going to do all the tabs at once, and then I'll return to the video. All right, we're back, and I've built out our entire accordion section. One thing we're going to want to do here is add a little bit of padding on the left and right side of our column structures. And our accordion is within our columns, which is within our container. If we select the container, we can then go down to dimensions, and instead of having it at max width of 100%, let's put it at, let's change it to pixels and call it maybe 1200 pixels. So that's still, if we're on desktop, that's still full width. Maybe we'll call it 1100. Yeah, that gives us a little bit of padding left and right. On desktop view, that's maybe too much padding. We can change that later. We can monkey around with that. Back to laptop view, we're happy with that. Now looking at our finished page, we want another section below with our seafood cooking tips and another accordion just built slightly different. So to do that, we're going to bring in another container. We're going to place that after our first one. And to speed things up, what we can do next is, since we put our H2 and our icon into a container, we can simply duplicate that container and drag that down into our new container and bring in our new icon. So I'm just going to upload it here. It should preserve the same dimensions, 100. It looks a little bit bigger because it's a larger image vertically. If we're not happy with our max width there, we can change it to something like 80 and maybe that looks a little more appropriate. Next, we want to add another accordion section, but first we want to give it a container, and then we'll add our accordion. Our first seafood cooking tip is defrosting your seafood. When you click on this, it's going to show its open state, and in its open state, we want to put a text block, and then we'll fill that. For the header, over here, defrosting your seafood, and we don't want to leave that one open. We want to style it to match our brand colors. The text is going to be that blue. The text is going to be Rubik. Scale up that text a little bit. And we want to add open icon. So let's just add that. Now when we open it, you see we have instructions. Now to speed things up, I'm just going to build out the rest of these panes by adding more panes for each of the tips that we're going to offer. Okay, I've added in all of our tips, and then now we want to just give the entire container a max width of, call it 900. Let's see how that looks. So now that we've built out the majority of the page, we know that there's a couple more elements we need to add on the right. That's our free ebook, a link to our blog, and a shop button. To save us time, I've already built these out previously, and one of the very cool things you can do with an app like Shogun is save stuff as a snippet. So for example, I've selected this container here, and over here you can click that little icon that says create snippet. You label it recipes, and then you create that snippet. You now have access to it on any page you're building anywhere, this entire container. And I've done something similar with the 3 containers here. And I'm just going to add those in now because you don't need to watch me build more stuff. And those you'll find under snippets. Get the free ebook, see stories, and below that, we're going to add our button. What we just dropped in is an image I designed in Illustrator. And then below that is just a text block that links to the page that I'll show you in a moment. Same deal here. There's a container with an image with some text written over it. And a button is just an element that you can drop in over here like any number of other elements you'll find. That's all that happened here. It's a button, it's styled, no mystery there. Now this will require a little bit of styling, a little bit of noodling around, adding a little space here and there. You get the gist. So for the free ebook, this is a separate page that I also built out in Shogun, and it's all the same concept that we just looked at. It's containers, it's images. Here there's 3 columns, and the key feature now is this container here, which appears to be nothing, but what it contains is an HTML block, and that HTML, when you click into that, is a Klaviyo form. But if you're familiar with forms, you can make an embedded form, which is exactly what this is, and that we're then embedding that form directly on the site in a container so that when you open that page, it appears like this with a button that says send me my cookbook. The way I've configured this is so that if a person enters their email here, it triggers a welcome flow, that includes a link to a PDF version of the cookbook. So now that we've built our pages, the last thing we will want to do is publish them. And to do that, you want to go over here in the upper left, click this little edit icon. Here's where you set up your page settings. You can manage all your SEO tags and your description, select whether you want robots to crawl this or not. You can do different descriptions for your Facebook tags and images that you want to appear when this is posted within a Facebook context. And then once you're happy with everything here, you can cancel out of that and click publish here. I'm not going to publish this. Once you hit publish, it'll push it live to the site with the slug that you selected over here. So in our case, it'll just be seededtable.com/pages/preppingyourcatch2. And that, my friends, is how you make a landing page using a page builder app like Shogun. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments below. Have a great day.